Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to this new Fleet Europe webinar with the support of EV Mobility. We all know that as electric fleets scale, that home charging has become an obvious choice. It is often cheaper. It is also more convenient for your drivers, and it is also essential in the journey to mass EV adoption. But it also comes for fleet managers sometimes with additional complexity. For example, thinking about how to install and manage the home chargers and how to ensure accurate reimbursement. In this webinar with EV Mobility, two experts will introduce a fundamentally different approach to EV charging management. Today, Lorenzo Ramallo, a former fleet and mobility management expert at KPMG, and EV Mobility CEO Stefan Brands will explain how to bring your own device, your own charger, to make sure that you have the smartest possible EV fleet operations. If you have questions for our experts, you can submit your question via the chat in the tool. As like always, we will have time to take a couple of questions at the end of this webinar. So, may you be ready? I will now welcome our two experts. Hello, Lorenzo. Hello, Stefan. I hope that you are doing well. It's, of course, a very interesting topic. We see also in surveys that we organize at Fleet Europe that the adoption of electrification is already on the road, that for many international fleets, getting the electric vehicles is not the most pressing issue. If there is an issue related to fleet electrification, it has mostly to do with EV charging and with charging management. And it's great that EV Mobility has come up with a new solution that might fit into the strategies of our fleet managers here in the room. So we are really eager to listen to both of you because you are the experts and you have the solution on hand. So let's start. I believe that Lorenzo, you, with your experience at KPMG, you of course have already met with many EV drivers. You probably also have already encountered some issues with EV charging management in the past. So perhaps it's good to listen first to your experiences, why a new solution or a new approach in terms of EV charging management is very essential for future fleet operations. Okay?
Mm-hmm. Thank you, Stephen. I want to welcome you all. Also from my side, as also already introduced by Stephen, I'm Lorenzo. I'm a fleet and mobility consultant. In the past 2 years, I spent all my time within KPMG in Belgium with a great team. I had great colleagues, and we managed about 2,000 cars, mostly electric. We have KPMG has a fully electrified strategy, but that comes also with a lot of hassles, a lot of concerns, challenges. And however, I know from my own experience that you all know which challenges are coming with the electrification of your electric car park, I really want to highlight some. They will give the direction of our talk today and why it's so important to think about EV charging stations at anyone's home. Because most of the problems we encountered when we were working at KPMG were easy questions, but we didn't have an easy solution for it. Like an employee already having a charger at home. The fact that an employee changed job and we needed to dismantle the already installed and very costly charging station at that person's home. And most of all, one size doesn't fit all in this case. people, employees, they want to have their own possibilities. They want to make their own choices. Everyone is different. Everyone's situation is unique. So should be our solutions to charging at home. And that's why I really believe that EV mobility is a solution, giving people back the opportunity to make their own choices in their own private life, in their own private home, to decide how they want to charge at home. Because home charging is the best you can do, but it should not be the problem of us as fleet managers. We should be able to concentrate on what really matters, making fleet and mobility more efficient, more sustainable, and even better for our employees. Last, most important reason I think that EV mobility is the right thing to do is a data insight. EV is today a black box. If you don't request manually information regarding your cars, you don't know anything. We didn't have any odometer data. And most important, we don't have any key about the energy flows of the cars. With charging as vehicle to grid is coming up, important car brands are launching it as we speak. We should gain insight in all the energy flows. And that's why I'm also happy, Steven, to be here today to dive into the solution of EV mobility, which was for me at KPMG a real good solution. And I'm very happy also to introduce our CEO, Stefan, who will explain more how EV handles all the shit that we as fleet managers or fleet officers are encountering every day of our work.
Lorenzo, thank you very much. Thank you already for picturing a little bit your experience and also some of the hassles. I wanted to come back on a couple of things. Yes. First, you said something about you have drivers that had a home charger, probably paid or financed by the company, and then they shifted jobs, they quit the company, they go to another company. And you mentioned that you needed to dismantle that home charger. Why do you do that? Because you also have fleet managers, for example, that say, okay, we will, of course, write off the complete home charger, and if they leave earlier, then they need to pay sort of a penalty.
That's also a possibility, Steven, and that was not the thing we did within KPMG. Companies that are handling it as that are already a step forward, which I think it's okay. But even then, you will get resistance of your employees because they will be paying for a charging station that they don't want to. Because once again, one size doesn't fit all. So it's a lack, it's an issue. And when you start dismantling, and you need always to give your employees a choice, do you want to pay for it or not? And if they don't want, then the problem starts. Then you're stacking up all your chargers in some storage facility of your provider, waiting to be reinstalled somewhere else. And you as a company are paying again for the installation of an already owned charging station. I don't need to clarify that's an immense logistic hassle. And I don't think that we as fleet managers should handle such things.
That's clear. Now, from your experience at KPMG, what do you think, or what do you see as the biggest pain point with home EV charging that made, let's say, an approach that we are going to present later today by Stefan, a vehicle data-based approach, even inevitable? Where there's some of the things that you said, well, yes, this system as we use it now, it's not workable at all for us.
Well, Steven, that's where I will repeat myself once more. One size doesn't fit all. Employees should get their own choices. They should decide themselves which charging station they want at home. it's not the company that should decide how your private home is looking like. We also don't decide which sofa you have in your living room, which dining table you have. So why should we decide which charger you need to have at home? So that's the most common reason and the most important reason for me to shift to a software that gives you the advantages of home charging and the reimbursement process with it, without the hassle, and giving the employee again its own choices, their own possibilities.
Okay. Then I'm coming to Stefan. Stefan, you are the CEO of EEVEE Mobility. What is EEVEE Mobility?
EEVEE Mobility is actually a software-driven solution based on vehicle data. So every vehicle today on the road is already connected to the clouds. And this data we actually use to provide to fleet managers to help them understand, handle, and reduce charging costs. So
Okay.
I think maybe this may be a bit of a story of mine. So I started to drive electric 12 years ago. And at that time, I didn't have a stable relationship. So I charged at home, but my home was at different places.
Yes.
And you cannot install a charging station at everywhere you sleep one night. So that's why I started thinking about, so you charge at a different location. Do you always need the hardware? No, the car actually knows where it charges and how much. So that's when I started to experiment with the first version of EEVEE, which was an app to track charging costs. And then an extension of that within the company I still own is a software company. And there are a lot of people wanted to drive electric as well. But then they said, yes, I already have a charging station, or my partner already has one, or what if I badge and my partner charges? So do you pay for their charging costs and stuff like that? And then the case for starting with the vehicle, so to start from the EV itself, became even more clear that this was the solution, which can enable a lot more than the flexibility of choosing which charging station. It can also prevent frauds. Make sure that charging infrastructure is not the limiting fact on scaling your EV fleet as a fleet manager or as a company owner. And that's actually why I started EEVEE Mobility. So I'm a bit passionate.
All right. No, but very good. So the solution that you have developed, it is not just because Lorenzo has asked for it. It's also based on your own experience and what you have seen also with other customers, with other people, with friends, with family, etc. That was the basis of saying, okay, let me try to look for another solution using another technology. That's correct.
Yeah, indeed.
Okay, perfect. Then we are all ears to listen to you, Stefan, and to see what the solution is all about. So the floor is yours. And to the audience, if you have a question for Stefan or Lorenzo, don't forget to submit your question via the chat. Stefan?
Yeah, so what's the difference? So the difference is, I already explained, I think. So it's actually a new method of reimbursement of home charging without the need of hardware. I mean, of course, there's still the need of a charger, but it gives the freedom to your employee to choose how they charge. So if they charge with just a socket or with a smart cable or with a charging station of their choice, it's always tracked. So EEVEE Mobility is actually a software platform which always tracks all charging of your vehicles, of your fleet. And compared to the old or the traditional way of working, this enables a lot of advantages. So maybe to dive into how it works a little bit more. So the car is always connected. It knows where it charges and how much, and this data is shared with the car manufacturer. So all big car brands today, they all have a cloud where they store this information. And we actually have official contracts with those car brands to buy this data and to use this data, for example, for reimbursement or to provide insights. Today we have a couple of brands supported. Actually, already I think 21 brands we have contracted, which we enable in our platform to use. So our mission is to be able to understand, handle, and reduce all charging costs based on vehicle data. We already have a lot of very nice customers, which we are, of course, very happy to work with. I cannot only say KPMG, so I had to add another couple of logos. So those are some customers we serve over the entire of Europe. It's more than 600 today. And again, there are, of course, a couple of ingredients. So it's not only understanding your insights, it's also not only charging. So we also have a clear overview of, for example, consumption and odometer. If you look at handling, then we say, of course, we want to handle home charging without the hassle of managing hardware. And it also gives the flexibility to scale faster with your electrification, because our platform enables to configure different rate settings, different configurations for different countries, or for different groups of people within your company. And I think one of the most important parts, which is where we believe that charging costs are one of the biggest influencers of the TCO of your car. And to influence this is, of course, important to help guide employees where they charge and how they charge, because we all know that charging at home is most of the time the cheapest solution. But there also we have a cost control suite, which we call EEVEE Reduce. And there you can enforce your fleet policy into our platform. It's not only to help ensure that employees charge at home, but it's also for public charging costs. For example, today you have parking fees or idle fees when people stay at the charger when they're already full. This is something what you do not need to pay as an employer. Or if you want that some people from different departments are able to charge outside your country or not, or in different countries, then we can geofence this also. So we can make sure that costs are as low as possible. You can also configure budgets. You can detect fraud. You can see if people who charged at work and are giving back the energy at home, who are actually vehicle to grid or vehicle to home using their vehicle, which already happens today. The vehicle always knows where it gets the energy and where it gives back. So this is something we also track and make insightful for our fleet managers. And we can even charge or split bill to write costs at your employee directly, so we can reduce your charging costs over your fleet. And of course, it's always 100% software driven and hardware agnostic, so it does not integrate with any charger or anything.
And on that, Stefan, just before, I want to highlight some questions we received already via the chat. Want to thank you already for that. From Guido and Eva, who would like to understand better how the connection is made. It's fully software driven. So we are aligned with the OEM car brands. So you don't need a dongle. You don't need to plug in our software somewhere in the car. It's a fully hardware agnostic solution. You just need the company car details like the VIN number to enable our software.
Yeah, maybe to add on that, Guido, it was a very hard job to get contracts with all car brands today in our portfolio. So we are already, we exist for 5 years. And I think one of the first contracts we made was with Daimler Connectivity Services, which is a very good partnership. of course, and this was the hardest contract to get, because at that time we were a pretty small company in Belgium, somewhere, I don't know. And so they thought, why do they want our data? But then we had a lot of security audits. We became ISO certified, GDPR compliant in every way. We had a lot of help from also KPMG and Deloitte on that side. And from there on, we started to do more official agreements. So we do not integrate with any third-party vehicle data hubs, no Geotab, no other solutions, no other brokers. We make direct contracts with the car manufacturers, and only with their approval, and with even security audits every couple months from different brands. But that's our focus, of course. So
okay. Very good, guys. We are going to take a couple of questions from the participants. To the participants, if you have questions, you can continue to submit your question via the chat, because I think it was an interesting discussion. The first question already to Stefan, and coming back a little bit to my personal situation, I can't install a home charger at home. So therefore, the solution as it is does not fit my situation. Is that correct?
what do you mean? So
I can't charge at home, yes, but but for me, your solution then can work for me. For example, when I charge public or at the office or somewhere else. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's correct. Yeah.
Okay. Perfect.
But
you also talked about, yes, Lorenzo?
Sorry, even Stephen, you're saying you can't charge at your home, but
Yes.
even when you have a 230 volts socket with EV Mobility, it is possible to charge.
Okay.
So even you will be able to charge at home with EV Mobility.
Perfect. Very good. Then one of the elements that you also talked about, Stefan, is about that the solution that you offer is also a solution that can detect and prevent afterwards fraud. Can you a little bit deeper explain that? Because sometimes we see indeed that there are questions about, let's say, multiple use of charging cards, etc., and charging at home that is not reimbursed correctly, and so on and so on. So can you a little bit explain how you do that, how you deal with that? What is the secret?
Yeah, so I'm not sure if it's a real big secret, but I think that everyone knows that the car knows all electricity which goes in and out. So you know if you batch somewhere and you go charge public, and you see that the electricity does not go into the car, then you have batched for somebody else. If there comes electricity in the car public and you did not use your charge pass, it means that it was or free at your neighbor's house, or that someone else batched. The same at your home. You can always detect what goes in and out the car. If you charge at work, if you then come at home and you plug your bidirectional charger in your car and you give energy back, then we see, because we start from the car, which energy goes out of the car. So there's a lot of fraud cases which can be detected because the car is actually always the single source of truth. It always knows which energy goes in or out. And I think we do two things. So we give insights. So we give insights into the budget, into usage, and into specific fraud cases. But we also do the enforcement of it. So if you can see that a certain person does fraud, then you can charge these charges directly to the employee and not at the employer.
Okay, good. The question pops in here. How do you manage the net losses?
So I think you mean the losses between the wall and the car?
Yes.
So we actually get the energy at, so we have the vehicle internal meter. So what we measure is what comes into the car. So there could be a loss in the charging cable. This loss is something at some car brands, we also get this loss. So we get an exact loss and we can say what went out of the wall, so we can calculate the correct one. At some others, we do not, and we use actually intelligence, so like AI, to calculate the correct loss and to make sure that the charging session is still accurate and correct.
Okay, perfect. Another question, and that's an important one, of course. You already shared that your solution is live. It's already used with more than 600 companies. I can imagine it's not only used in your home country, Belgium, but even in Europe and perhaps beyond Europe. Can you share a little bit what your coverage is?
Yeah, of course. So I think coverage-wise, we cover the entire of Europe, so every country. I think today we are mainly focused on Germany, France, Luxembourg, and Belgium. Those are the companies who have the biggest presence. But we have a lot of big companies we are working with, where we support 10 or 12 countries. So it's not, I think, from coverage, it's actually the entire of Europe. But I see at the question that there's also various CPOs. That's actually an interesting point to pick in, because we are, it's not a CPO question, because we start from the car, so we do not integrate with the CPOs. We are not dependent on them. So every CPO is supported, but of course, our solution has multiple tiers. So you can use it only for home charging, then it's not relevant. If you also use it for public charging, or you can combine it with any public charging pass available, or you can use our charging pass. If you use our charging pass, then we support, I think, around. I have to be sure. To be sure, I mean, it evolves. Yeah, it
at
evolves
this moment, and by the end of the year, more than 1 million.
Yeah.
Okay.
Charging stations.
Okay. That is about, let's say, the coverage, but there is also, of course, you already mentioned it. There are, of course, also the necessary ties or contracts that you have with the car manufacturers, the OEMs. We see, of course, more and more car manufacturers, for sure, in the EV space coming in, not only from Europe, beyond Europe. What is your coverage there? Do you have agreements with 80%, 90%, 70%, 100% of the car manufacturers?
Yeah, so if we have a look at that question, because that's of course an important one, is that we have the ambition to cover 100% of fleet cars. So we are not focused on the cars who are just, how do you say, personal owned.
Yes.
We are focused on what's driving in the fleets today. And if we have a look at that, then it's very high. It's very hard to say which percent exactly, but we are also focusing on Asian brands. So I think we are also talking with them. Today, as I said, we have 21 brands covered. I think those are the majority of the cars driving in fleets in Europe. But there are smaller brands like Neo, for example. We do not support yet, but we are in talks with them. I think our ambition is to evolve and to add brands every quarter. So that's not really, coverage is never an issue at our customers today.
Okay. You mentioned, Stefan, that at the moment your focus is on the company cars, the company vehicles, and not on the private cars. But of course, in some countries, the so-called gray fleet is quite big. So people using their own vehicle, but also, let's say, for business trips. Yes. Is this something that in the future then could also be taken into your playing field?
Yeah, it is. So it's actually today already possible. So you can connect cars which are private cars. There's also an app for private drivers. So that's all supported. But what I was pointing at, or referring at is that the coverage of the cars. If you have a look at personal car, then it's more diverse than in fleets to brands. But that doesn't mean that we still support private cars or the gray fleet as well.
Okay. Another question in the list, a question a little bit linked to your business model and also to how it works then for on the client side. So can you share that? How does your solution work on the client side? Is this based off a yearly app subscription? Is there another model that companies or subscribers can use?
Yeah, it's very straightforward, to be honest. So it's a fee per car per month, and the cost is lower if you have a yearly subscription, and we have different tiers. So you can start with understand or handle or reduce, and this creates the price, to be honest, but it's always a fixed fee per car per month.
Okay, and it does not matter. It does not matter if you have 150 vehicles or if you have 3,000 vehicles.
Yeah, then it's lower.
Okay. Yeah.
So the more vehicles you have, the lower the price.
Okay. Okay. That's good. Then another one. Does the exact mileage of your vehicle comes in the platform at every charge?
Yeah, it does. It does. So in the platform, every charging session of every employee is transparent, and you can also see the mileage of the car.
Okay, perfect. Another one. Is it possible for the fleet manager to block a vehicle to home function for the employees?
Yes and no. So you cannot block it, because if they do it, then they just do it. But you can see it, and you can, of course,
track it.
You can track it, but you can. How do you say in English? So the payment, you can make sure that you get a payment from your employee.
Yeah. I want to pick in there, and that's also an important thing for me with EV Mobility. It tracks all the energy flows, as said before. So we know what's getting in, and in Belgium we use a specific tariff to pay to the employees for what's getting in. In my opinion, we should be able to track the energy flow out and to just deduct it at the same price. But blocking things is not our philosophy. We want to give fleet managers insights. We want to give them the data to see which flows are happening, but it's at their side, it's their point to make it responsible to their drivers how to use it. And we provide the insight, the data. We are not the cop blocking things that you shouldn't do.
Okay. Then another question. How would you manage V2L applications, so discharging the battery?
Yeah, I think it's a bit related. So if you discharge the battery, you mean if I'm not sure if I understand the question 100%, but I think our solution itself does not discharge the battery, because we have nothing which is installed in the car or anything, because we just use the data we get from the car manufacturer. We do not even communicate directly with the car. We communicate with the car manufacturer's cloud, to be honest, and they have the data of the car. So we do not have an impact on the battery or the discharging of the battery of the car. But if an application discharges the battery, then we can see this. So we can see in our platform how many power went out of the battery. So I think it's a bit the same question or related to previous ones, if I'm correct. That's of course all visible in the platform.
Okay.
Happy to give but it's not that's nothing we prepared for today.
Yeah. Okay. Of course, for many fleet managers, optimizing the cost of use, the total cost of ownership of their fleet is crucially important. Can you explain in what way this approach, bring your own charger model, reduces the total cost of ownership compared to the, let's say, traditional EV charging management solution that everyone knows from years ago?
So if it's okay for you, Stephen, I will take that question from my
Perfect.
experience. I think the most important benefit is that there is no fleet-owned hardware like CAPEX, as we know it already today in the fleet, which is minimalizing risk, but it's also costs. And you can put the question ahead: is the employer needed to pay for the charging station at a private home? Does that need to be a cost of the employer? Question mark. Some companies say yes, some companies say no, some companies say partially. I think there is a lot of gain to do there, but the most important thing regarding to reduce the total cost is the win in efficiency, that you can enroll everyone on the same solution without any exceptions. Today we have, when you have already hardware, you have shared CPOs, you have other things like dismantling, installing a new one. All those things disappear with the solution as EV. If you already have your own charging station, you don't need to disinstall it, to have another CPO on it, to do anything with it. So I think that's also a very important win, because you don't have any hardware needed. So there is also no vendor lock-in. It gives you as a fleet manager a lot more flexibility and freedom, as well as your employees.
Mm-hmm. Okay, that's clear. I can imagine that your solution fits and passenger cars, light commercial vehicles, and perhaps trucks as well. Stefan?
If you support trucks, not yet, but light commercial vehicles, we do.
Okay, very good. In terms of the onboarding process, how long does it take and what is needed? So if I'm a fleet manager of multinational companies, I have a fleet of, let's say, 300 or 500 electric vehicles in 4 or 5 countries. I contact you and Lorenzo, and from that moment on, how long is the onboarding process?
I think onboarding itself, it's, of course, because it's a 100% software-driven solution, it's only a matter of installation. This goes very fast. So I think we always start with configuration. So configuring which groups there are, which countries there are, which entities there are. After that, it's important to set rates, to choose which groups or which countries follow which rates. We have a lot of rates automated already in the platform. So, for example, for France, it's tarif bleu, or for Belgium to follow the correct tariff automatically, so you do not have to worry about it, or follow, for example, a real cost, or have them follow have the cost per employee. That's all possible. So that's configuration we do first. And after that, it's only a matter of adding the vehicles. And then you already like directly, you see every data of the vehicle. So it does not take any time. But I think in reality, there's also always like a pilot phase. So with most companies, we start with a couple of vehicles to test, to see how it works, how employees react, how satisfied they are, how everything works, and then we roll out, mostly as country by country. So I think a typical process, it takes a couple months, also because some bigger companies or clients have to include their what do you say, the workers' council, I think, to be sure so they can switch the solution. That's also a thing, of course. But all that in account, it's actually pretty easy because you do not have to install anything. So yeah, it's straightforward. It all depends on how fast you want to go as a fleet manager.
Okay, we are going to take the final couple of questions. There is quite a long one. I'm going to read it. You can read with me, Stefan and Lorenzo. So home charging sessions are reimbursed based on the CREG tariff, and as a fleet manager, we are responsible for setting the correct CREG tariff based on the region where they are domiciliated. Will there be an update in the future that the system will automatically detect at which tariff it should reimburse?
Yeah, I think that's an important question, and I see that Dean is definitely a happy customer of our platform, that he noticed that it's not automatically today, but it's definitely a thing where we're working on on our product development team to enroll it faster, to identify which correct tariff will be necessary if you want a regional one. Because we cannot forget that also in Belgium, it's possible to have the national one, and then you will still need to indicate it yourself individually.
Stefan,
you want to add something?
Yes, I did not interpret that question that way. So correct tariff is already automatically followed within Belgium.
Yeah, but, I think how I interpreted was that when the employee is registering his car, he needs to put his home address to enable home reimbursement. And I think what Dean wants to say is that there should be an automatic link if you live like in Hasselt, that it automatically knows that it's Craig Flanders that will reimburse.
Okay, that way.
Because it was a similar question I already had when I was at KPMG and took up with the development team of EEVEE in that phase already.
Okay, it will be included very soon, I think.
Yeah. Okay, and what is very soon? Still this year?
Always.
Always. Okay.
I think it will be sooner than this year then.
Okay. Another one. If there is a disconnection with the manufacturers that you work with, so with the manufacturer's cloud, can we have all the information back, or is it lost?
Yes. So it also depends on the car brand. So some cars store the information. So some cars do not. So if in a certain for one or the other reason the connection is lost with the cloud, from the car to the cloud, then it could be that the charging session is registered at the car. So when it comes back online, that it gives the charging session to the cloud and it comes to us. With other brands, it's not the case. But I think with all brands we have, we are working towards a nearly, I think, 99.9% coverage to be sure that there's never a charging session lost. On the other hand, it's also possible if you lose the connection for example, for a couple of minutes or in half an hour or an hour, that we can reconstruct the session because we have a data point when the connection is lost and we have a data point when the connection comes back on. And then, of course, we know what happened in between. So that's also a thing. So I think this is something we are overcoming as good as possible.
Okay. And then the final one, is there a connection with fleet management programs, or can you automatically integrate, let's say, your solution with, for example, the reporting systems of a leasing company? Is there something to share on that?
Yeah, I think we have a couple of integrations. So it's with fleet management software, but also with single sign-on applications. It's also with mobility providers, mobility budget providers. We have an open API also, so we can do custom integrations if needed. So yes, they are enabled or they are available.
Okay, perfect. Then final question, Stefan. If the people in the audience, and I hope so, would like to know more about EEVEE Mobility and your solution, where do they need? Is there like a website or a contact or?
Sorry, I missed you for a second there, but I think your question was how they can reach us.
Yes.
So it's via the website. It's www.eeveemobility.com. Or, of course, they can always send us an email or call us. Maybe we can provide our contact details to you, Stephen.
Okay. Perfect. Thank you very much. Thank you, gentlemen. It was really great to have you in this Fleet Europe webinar. Thanks to EEVEE Mobility, to Lorenzo, and to Stefan for explaining what a new solution can be for your EV charging management. It's not so difficult. You only need to bring your own charger, your own device, and they will do the rest. Thank you very much, and I hope to see you in the next episode of our Fleet Europe webinars. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.